Look,
And I'm
there you are.
live. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
oh boy. All right, I'm live.
Good.
So
Good.
I've no idea where I'm looking. The camera's in a weird position, but at least I'm live. So uh, good morning, everybody. We're so sorry. For whatever reason, we can't get anything on the computer whatsoever. We've got two iPads going at the moment. We don't even know if anybody's there. Anybody can see us. Al is going to be putting this link up, so we're just going to keep going. Is the link up? Do we have anybody?
We have a couple.
Let's well, let's let's go then. Let me just mess about with this, mess about with that. There we go, everybody. Let's see. Let me move about a bit. Isn't this fun? Don't you love technology? This is technology at its best, I do believe. I don't know what all that stuff is behind me, but we're going to ignore that. Um, so, uh, so let's begin. Let's pretend. Let's pretend we're going to do this from the beginning. Good morning, everybody. And I'd like to say good morning to my puppy who is laid to my right side. Of course, I'd also like to say good morning to Great Eagle, who is as ever standing to my right here. And we have Michelle, who is on the floor because it's easier for her hip. Say good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
You see, look at this smiling face. You've no idea that we've been spending the last half an hour trying to get this. So poor Michelle had it all set up. Everything was set up as it should be. We were all set to go, ding, and it wouldn't let us in. And we still can't get in on the computer, can we? So can you get questions? So
I do. I can get questions, but anything that was done on the first one, I can't access.
If you are with us, because we don't even know if anybody's with us, but if you are with us, and you already, excuse me, you already sent in a question. Unfortunately, we don't have it because we can't get into it. So all of those lovely questions, and we did have quite a few, so all of those lovely questions that you do have, please could you send them in to us again? And off we go. So why don't we just let's go with a question and then we'll see from there. Michelle, do you have anybody there at all?
We do have some people here.
Do you know, it's so funny. It's one of those moments when you want to say, is there anybody there? Don't you? Go. All right, let's go. Let's start.
Violet has a question.
Good morning, Violet. Oh, you stuck with us. Good.
And she wants to know, does addiction show up as a color in a person's aura?
Does addiction? Yes. Simple answer. Simple, straightforward answer. Yes. Our aura is, the people who see auras can be really fortunate, or some people might even think that we are unfortunate because we can actually see an awful lot or tell an awful lot about a person's situation, about how they're feeling, their emotional state. The aura is sort of like the mirror to the soul, if you like. So it might not show up as necessarily as a particular addiction, but it would certainly show up as an emotional issue. And yes, and the aura is made up of so many different colors, and as Violet will know, as you all should know by now, because we've talked about this before on the show, each color can tell a different thing about a different person. So the answer is yes. I'm going to fiddle with this just a little bit more. Don't know if I can get it any higher. There we go. I think that's better. All right, so I feel comfortable now. Let's have another question, and then I'm going to chat to you and tell you about my little vacation that I've been on.
Actually, we don't have any other questions yet.
That's
not
it.
Everybody's come over.
Oh, all right then. Well, all right then. Why don't I just talk about my vacation, which I took a little hiatus. It wasn't supposed to be a hiatus. I was supposed to be actually working as well. But my journey from Florida to New York takes roughly 2 hours and 40 minutes. But this time it took the entire day, 12 hours of which, a solid 12 hours of which, I was sitting on a plane. And those of you who know me rather well will know that I have back issues and knee issues, and you know, I hate to be that old lady. But by the time I got off that plane, I was like a zombie walking around. It took me ages and ages to sort of get myself to back together, but also I had some great difficulties with my back and also with my knees. So I was sort of limping a bit and hobbling a bit, and nevertheless, I still was able to make my darling boy's favourite, which are chocolate covered shortbreads. I also made while I was there a huge, enormous chocolate cake, which all of us love. What else did I make? I made so many delicious things. I made custard tarts using creme patissiere, which is just delicious, and I love to make it. And what else did I make? Oh, yes, I made big strawberry meringues, I made small meringues. Aside from the everyday dinners that I also made, of course, when I say everyday dinners, I mean my everyday dinners, and I like to mess about in the kitchen, as you all know, so I really had a great deal of cooking time. The difficulty was that because I can only stand for a short amount of time before my back starts aching, I was sort of cooking, whisking up, sitting for a bit, cooking, whisking up, sitting for a bit. You know how that is. But everything is about attitude. And so having a great attitude and having great determination. And because I'd promised my grandson that I would do all of this, I did it. We also, a friend of mine came from Canada, and we all went to Coney Island. My daughter was very concerned about me going to Coney Island because, again, it's trains and a ferry and lots of walking. We had so much fun. I got drenched, absolutely drenched in chocolate ice cream. We didn't realize that one of the chocolate ice cream cups, namely my grandson's, had a hole in the bottom, so it was melting and dripping all over my cream pants. Don't you love having grandchildren? Don't you love having children? Isn't it so much fun? And you know, the pants washed and they were fine. So, hey, you know, we had such a great time. So, anybody else join us?
Do you want to talk about the contest?
Oh, yes. All right, then. So, we got, yes. Well, we don't have anybody. Do we have anybody?
We have a couple, yes.
We have a few people. But those of you who miss it can watch it live. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit today about superstitions. As most of you will know, tomorrow is Friday the 13th, and Friday the 13th is not it's not the 13th is the unlucky number in some countries. They don't, in the hotels and businesses, they avoid a 13th floor. I don't know if you know that. Many high-rise buildings have a 1 to 12, and then 14 to whatever they go up to. I don't know if you knew that, but many buildings, especially the buildings in the China, in the Far East and so on, are devoid of a 13th floor because the number 13 is horrible. So, or people consider it, superstitious. So we thought, because it's Friday the 13th tomorrow, we thought we'd talk about superstition and, superstitious beliefs and so on. How many of you actually do walk under a ladder? How many of you actually do, have a lucky penny in your pocket or something special that you feel brings you good luck? How many of you have a lucky number? I certainly have a lucky number. My number's 7. And my daughter was, my number was 7 since I can remember, since being a kid. And my daughter was born on the 7th, so that was sort of told me something. How many of us pay attention to superstitions? So we're going to talk a little bit today about superstitions, and you have a few. I know Michelle actually was really great while I was away and sort of made a whole list of superstitions, but I thought this morning, why don't we have a little competition? It's about time. Unfortunately, this competition only applies to those of you who are in the US, only because with customs, with the postage, with all that sort of stuff, it's impossible for us to deal with sending stuff out to other countries as a prize or what have you. So rather than lie on the forms for the for all of the customs people. We don't want to do that. So unfortunately, you're only eligible if we can send you something in the mail where we don't have to deal with customs forms and so on. So what I thought this morning was, I'm going to take the best three, or the most unusual three superstitions that perhaps nobody knows about, or they're so old, or they're so vague, or what have you. I'm going to do the choosing. I want you all to send in any superstitions that you think you know about, or hey, go and check it out. Go to Google and check some out. The best three, or the three that I feel are the most curious or funniest or whatever takes my fancy, I'm going to send you my new book, A Walk in the Clouds. I might even send you a tape as well. You never know. This prize might just keep growing as we're going along. And on Halloween, which is a month from now, yes, you see, we've got all around these superstitions and the witches and all of that stuff. So on Halloween, we shall, which happens to be a Thursday, so we'll be here on Thursday morning with our Halloween show. We shall announce the winners. So if you want to join in, first of all, you have to be in the US. Second of all, you have to be a subscriber of YouTube. That's easy to do. It doesn't cost you anything. Just go to the subscribe button and click on it. So that will enable you to subscribe. And so you have to be a subscriber, and then just send in to my office. The email is rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. I mean, you really can't, you can't not remember it, can you? So I'll say it again, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. In the subject, put competition. You can put spooky competition. You can put what is it we're doing here? You can put superstitions, competition. You can put whatever you like in there, but make sure that in the subject line you put competition, because or contest, contest, and so, and that's all you need to do to enter. Again, it's not going to cost you anything, and you might get a little package of goodies if you are one of the lucky three. So, unfortunately, also the cookbook, if anybody wants the cookbook, I'm sorry, but it's way too expensive for me to give that as a prize because I'm a meanie. But you will get my new book, A Walk in the Clouds, which is amazing, got some fabulous and amazing stories, and I might even send you The Eagle and the Rose on a CD with my voice telling the story. I mean, come on. I mean, what more could you want than that? So again, the best three, and I'm going to be the judge. So, come on, get going here. Find me some really great superstitions. The best three, the most unusual three, or the funniest three, or whatever it is that take my fancy, will actually win the prize. So you've got three chances to win the prize. Now, we thought to start it off that we'd just mention perhaps two or three of those superstitions that and unfortunately you can't use the ones we talk about or choose. You can't just send them back to us. So Michelle, why don't you read a couple of these superstitions for us?
One of them says that on New Year's Eve at midnight, you're supposed to throw 4 pennies, and make a wish for each of the pennies for the 4 lucks: money, romance, health, or fate.
Money, romance, health, or fate. You throw the penny. Where do you throw the pennies? In the air, or in the fire,
all it said
in
was
the
at
water,
midnight you're supposed to throw the pennies.
So you make your wishes for your 4 choices: romance, health, money, and what? Fate. So you sort of put that in your head, and then you take your 4 pennies, whether you do it one at a time or whether you throw them all together. I have no idea, because I never heard of that one before. I've heard of course, the stranger. This is a big superstition, and my mother was very, very keen always on New Year's Eve. At the stroke of midnight, the stranger walks in your door carrying a lump of coal and a piece of bread. Did you ever hear of that, Michelle? The lump of coal is symbolizes that you will never go cold, that you will always have fire and warmth. And the bread was that you would always have something to eat. So you'd always have warmth and you would always have bread. That might be a typically British thing. I don't know, but we always did it, and my mother always made sure. And it had to be, when I stranger, we wouldn't let just anybody in our house, of course. So it had to be someone tall and dark, supposedly. But again, tall is relative. If you're a little person, then if you're 5'2", a person of 5'6" is tall, right? So you can improvise right there. But my mother always used to do that. Let's have another. Let's have another of those superstitions, shall we, Michelle?
Okay. Whistling indoors invites evil.
Whistling indoors invites evil. I don't know. Do we know which country that comes from?
Lithuania.
Lithuania. I never heard of that one. There's that old adage, whistle while you work, and if you're working indoors. I personally don't whistle too much because I can't do it very well. But I know a lot of people who whistle indoors. I don't particularly agree with it, but it's a weird superstition. We thought we'd mention that. And yes, another one.
Mm-hmm. This one is from Egypt, and it says if you throw salt over your left shoulder while cooking, it keeps the evil away from your food and makes your food better.
Right. Well, I didn't know the superstition of throwing salt over your left shoulder. If somebody spills salt on the table, you're supposed to immediately take a pinch and throw it over your left shoulder, because again, it's the sort of getting rid of the evil away from the table, getting rid of the bad vibes away from your food. I didn't know actually that it originated in Egypt, and I also didn't know that it was, when you were cooking. I don't suppose you have to spill it. So when you're cooking in Egypt, they believe that you just you've got the salt there because you're cooking anyway. So you're just supposed to throw it over your left shoulder, and it makes the food taste better and it keeps the evil away. Now in England, I know you're going to hate me because you're probably all sitting there thinking, well, I know a good one, but you can't use this one. But in England again, and maybe perhaps in other countries too, in sort of bygone days, every household, every entrance to every household, in other words, over every window and over every doorway, anywhere that you could get in or out, people would hang some garlic. They would pin some garlic up above the door, and they would also pin a bunch of rosemary. Rosemary is supposed to keep the witches away, which I do very nicely, I have to say. And the garlic also, the smell of the garlic is also supposed to keep the witches away. So that's another superstition. Of course, I don't recall ever walking into anybody's house and seeing a bunch of rosemary and a bunch of garlic, although you can come into my kitchen and see it all the time. But it was very prevalent, and people took it very, very seriously in those bygone days. Of course, if a neighbor accused another neighbor of being a witch, that counted as well. I mean, we're talking about the days of superstitions where we're supposed to be more educated now, we're supposed to know more now, we're supposed to really sort of understand that these superstitions came from ignorance, but people still hold to them. And if you can recall, it just crossed my mind, if you can recall, it's not so long ago, I said on this actual show, somebody wrote in and said, can you tell me when I'm going to sell my house? Because they'd been trying for ages to sell their house and no luck. And I said to them, if you get a little statue of, I do believe, I can't remember now, was it St. Nicholas or St. Anthony? I can't remember. And you can get them at any Catholic store. You dig a hole in your garden, you bury the statue upside down, and you say a little "please help me sell my house" thing over it. You bury it. it is supposed to help you. There's another superstition. It's supposed to help you to sell your house. Now, here's the weird thing. Somebody told me about doing this and a few years ago, and I was desperate to sell the house, and I did it. And within weeks, I sold my house. But I also, did a disclaimer. Just because I tell you that it happened to me does not necessarily mean it's going to happen to you. But the funny thing was, that same person who couldn't sell a house actually wrote to us a week or two later. She'd done exactly what I'd suggested, and yippee whoopee, she'd sold her house. Is it because she buried the statue in the garden, or is it because her energy had changed? She believed. And very often, if we believe a thing, therefore, we can encourage it to happen by our positive energy, by our outlook. Did the vibrations around a house change because she changed? Who knows? All I can tell you is she wrote to us gleeful. She was so excited because she'd finally found a house. Everybody had signed off on it, and that was that. So do we have one more superstition, or do we have any comments or questions that we have from people about these superstitions?
We have a ton of stuff in here.
Good, let's go then. Let's go.
Okay, so our very first question came from Albertine.
Good morning, Albertine.
And she wants to know, how did you experience the Black Hills?
Fabulously. That's all I can say. So it's an odd, well, it's a short question, but fabulously. That's all I can say about that. Next one. Keep going, Michelle.
Okay, Randy.
Morning, Randy.
He would like to know, why is it that medium psychics have such an easy time reading for others versus themselves?
Well, it's fairly simple, really. Our own emotions, our own needs, our own wants kind of get in the way. So I personally, I always feel that. Don't misunderstand me. I've asked a trillion times. I've asked Gregor a trillion times over the years. In fact, there was a time many years ago when my life was very sort of iffy, and I really didn't know where I was going, what I was doing, what was going to happen next, and I was asking so much and so often that at one point he made me so ashamed of myself, because he just looked me right in the eye in the gentlest and the kindest and the softest voice. He said, "Rosemary, you're making my ear bleed." In other words, I was giving him a pain in the ear because I was being so over the top and so desperate to know the answers. And I think as I've gotten older and I've learned more about what I do and how precious the information is and where it comes from, I think learning to trust, and I think mediums above all others should, because of the quantity and the quality and the incredible source of information that we get, the incredible source, we should learn to trust more. And so I tend these days not to ask too much. That doesn't mean my daughter doesn't ask me all the time, "What do you think of this and this? Do you think it's going to rain tomorrow?" And I say, "Oh, ask Alexa." Go to Google. That's what I do. Yes, next question.
Okay, Nettie's on and she says hello to
Morning,
everyone.
Nettie.
Maggie's on. She said that she needs the recipe for your chocolate cake.
Oh, Maggie, we have your email, don't we? We shall send it to you today, my darling. But here's the thing about my chocolate cake. I just want to say this. Other people have had my chocolate cake, and people have written to me to say how good it is and so on and so forth. However, the thing about my cakes is I always bake them in an 8-inch tin. The standard cake tin is a 9-inch. If you bake it in an 8-inch, which is what the recipe calls for, you get a really nice, deep, luscious, thick, moist cake. If you bake it in a 9-inch, it's not so lush, and it's also, I don't think, not so moist because it dries it out because it's too thin. So you need to hot foot out, Maggie, to the store and find 8-inch cake tins. That's all I can tell you. They're easy to find, and in fact, if you don't want a hot foot out there, just go on Amazon. They have them. They have them there easily. An 8-inch cake pan or tin, whatever you want to call it, is not the secret, but one of the secrets to a really, really good, delicious chocolate cake. My grandson loves it. I call it my choco mocha because I put little espresso coffee in there as well. It's really, really good. And I don't eat cake. I don't even like cake, but I have to have a taste of that. Yes.
Okay, Margareta said,
Margarita?
uh-huh. Hi, Rosemary. On
Good
the
morning.
subject of addiction,
Yes.
is there a protective crystal to help reach the victim of drug addiction or a specific prayer that you can offer?
That's actually a good question. Um, you know, I occasionally use crystals. Maybe if I remember, we'll bring them on next week and I'll show them to you. I've had them for years and years and years. And sometimes, I'll use them if I just feel the need of a little extra energy. I don't use them very often, but sometimes I do use them. And I use white crystals, and so maybe if I remember next week, I'll bring them on to show you. But the prayer is a simple healing prayer. If you go to my Facebook page, every Thursday I'll say a prayer. We have people on our healing list. If you use that simple prayer, join your energy with that God force, with that healing energy that is out there. That's really, all that you can do. It's a lot, actually, but it's really all that you can do, because unfortunately with addiction, it's really down to the person who has the addiction, because they have to want for things to work. They really have to want to, and unfortunately so many people are addicted actually to so many different things. So many people are addicted in a way that they in some odd way prefer the addiction, or it's easier to have the addiction than to actually really want to be rid of it. So it's a very, very tough call, and it's a tough call for you, I'm afraid. But hey, sending healing every day doesn't hurt, and certainly can help. Yes, let's have another question there. I can see that I'm using my iPad, and I can see things are popping up all the time here, so I'm hoping people have found us at last. So let's keep going.
We have 26 people on with us right now.
Oh, bless you all. All right, then we're going to continue, because I've no idea what time we started this. We've no idea how long it will last. If we suddenly cut out, we did our very best for you anyway. We're just going to keep going for a bit.
Sharon is
Morning,
in
Sharon.
North Carolina visiting her son and his wife and their dog.
Oh, that's where my plane got diverted to. Can't tell you. Yes.
She said even her late husband approves.
Son and dog. Okay. All right.
Son, wife, and dog.
Son, wife, and dog. Sorry.
And Maggie wants to know, what's the difference between a superstition and an old wives' tale?
An old wives' tale can be anything. They're very often an old wives' tale is, it has to do with superstition, but it also can have to do with just simple gossip. But pretty much it's the same sort of thing. I hope you're going to join in this competition, Maggie, because, I'm very curious. I like soups. When I say I like them, I like to know about, particularly I'm very, very interested in Victorian days and how things worked then, but going back before then, medieval times and so on. I'm very curious about history, particularly, of course, British history. We go back such a long way, but I do like to know these things, these little things that I come up with these little things all the time that nobody else knows. I'm a mine of absolutely useless information. Let's have a next question, Michelle, please.
Okay.
She's on the floor at my feet here. Okay.
Kitty said that today is her husband's birthday in heaven. And that she wanted to know if he has any messages for her.
Kitty, I'm sure that your husband is with you today. Um, I was going to say no, I don't have any messages, but actually Gregor has put his hand on my shoulder here, and the message is coming over from Grey Eagle. I do not, let's be clear, do not see your husband, doesn't mean he's not about, but I do not see him so much, but the message is coming very clearly from Grey Eagle and also now from another source to that here is the message. You know, we wish each other happy birthday all the time. You want him to have a happy birthday, which means that he wants you to be happy, because without your being happy, he cannot be. And I know, darling, that it's a struggle for you, but that's what he wishes for his birthday today, for you to be happy. Let's have another question.
Brooks
or a comment or anything. Good morning, Brooks.
And she says, my beloved husband Paul was so superstitious as a racehorse rider that when I accidentally touched his foot with a broom, as I was sweeping our wee small house, that I swept his luck away. I was incredulous and laughed so hard and touched his foot again just to show him he wouldn't die from it.
Oh no, you did? Oh, did he lose the race that day? Oh, yes, I've heard of that one. You can sweep somebody's luck away, but wow, that's it. That's very interesting. It's interesting because, you know, there are people, perhaps you listening, maybe some of you listening are those people who will not under any circumstance walk under a ladder. It makes sense to me, because after all, if you walk under a ladder and somebody's painting above you, you likely get splashed or what have you. But that is not why walking under a ladder was actually the original superstition. We know from Michelle's research that the original reason that people didn't walk under ladders was because that ladders were used to build the gallows years and years ago. So you didn't go anywhere near them, let alone walk under them. Is that right, Michelle?
Yes, in the medieval times.
See, you're learning a lot. You're learning a lot here. So let's have another question.
Okay.
Or comment.
Violet said, peeling an apple and throwing the whole skin over your shoulder on Halloween will land in the initial of your future love.
I never heard that one. I take it you don't want to be in this competition, because you're giving all these superstitions away. Just let me say, everybody out there, if you want to be in the competition, you want to join the competition, please do not let us know until you send it in to us. Again, I'm just going to give you the address to send it into, and it's very simple. Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. In your subject line, make sure that you put contest, right?
Or competition.
The contest or competition or whatever it is, superstition or whatever. If you just put contest or competition in, that will get to the right place. Also, we'll know how to deal with it. I'm really looking forward. You've got to play the game now, everybody, because I'm really looking forward to some of those things. Let's have another question or a comment.
Okay, Mary said that her sister is having minor surgery today, and does anyone from the spirit world have a message for her?
We shall certainly be sending your sister healing. Perhaps you could let us know what her name is. I don't need the full name. If you don't want to do that, we can just put, who's the lady who wrote this in?
Mary.
We can just put Mary's sister, because we don't need to know. God knows, and that's all that matters. But we shall certainly send lots of healing and lots of love, Mary, to you and to your sister. Let's have the next one going on. Keep them coming, Michelle. Let's keep them going. Keep them
We've
flowing.
got one from Dean.
Good morning, Dean.
He said, last week I ate a big piece of Rosemary's Christmas cake that I had frozen. Actually, it had so much brandy in it that it never froze. Still delicious.
Yeah.
It's in Rosemary's cookbook.
Well, let me tell you something, Dean. It's so funny that you should say that, because I put not too big a chunk, but I put a chunk of Christmas cake away in my daughter's freezer uh, after last Christmas, the older it is, the better it is. It keeps its, being in the freezer. Of course, alcohol doesn't really freeze, but it keeps it just nice and cold and just fresh. And when you take it out of the freezer and you thaw it out, it's literally like it, you just baked it. It's so fresh, it's so delicious, except that it's perhaps slightly more potent. Now, just for everybody's information, Dean put in, I think, at least twice, if not 3 times, the amount of alcohol than is actually in the recipe, which is why it was so potent, Dean, and why it probably didn't freeze as much as you'd like it to. But oh gosh, it is really, really good. I think I told the story of leaving once years ago my Christmas cake that I'd made in the freezer because I'd put it in too big a tin and it hadn't sort of risen quite as I wanted it to. And sort of several years later, I was cleaning, it was a big chest freezer, I was cleaning out the freezer and I came across this wrapped beautifully, sealed, wrapped in foil and in plastic and so on. And I thought, I was going to a Christmas party and I thought, I'll just take that with me. It was the best. I've had more comments about that particular cake than any other that I've ever made. And boy, did I ever regret giving that away. I just thought, oh, this'll do. But it was delicious. So the longer you make your Christmas cake and the longer you keep it, the longer you hold it over, the better it tastes. Thanks for the plug for my cookbook, by the way, Dean. Excuse me.
So we have a new viewer on today.
We do.
And the name on here is T.
Okay, good morning, T.
And it says, my mom always said that if you get your belly wet when you're doing dishes, you're going to marry a drunk.
Oh. I think that's an old wives' tale right there.
I'd be in a world of trouble.
I'd never heard that before. And how can you not get wet when you're washing dishes? But I do love it. Now you see, that might have won you a book had you not put it on air for everyone to hear it. So, but thank you for that, T. We hope you're enjoying the show so far. Okay.
There's a lot of good ones on here.
Keep going.
So tell Twiggy Leaf hello. She got here a little bit late, but she's here now.
Hi, darling. Hi, Twiggy Leaf. I'll say hello to you.
Dean says, superstition. My grandmother believed that if you saw 3 crows together, someone you knew would die.
Yes, there's a lot of superstition around crows and around birds in particular. There is a lot of superstitious talk. There's a lot of superstition about owls, and that comes, I do believe, from Egypt. I know I sound incredibly knowledgeable, but Michelle did her homework while I was away. But owls are supposed to be, the Egyptians believe that owls portend. If you see an owl, it portends something awful going to happen. So, and there are a lot of it comes from Egypt, but there are a lot of excuse me, other people who believe the same sort of thing. I just think they're beautiful creatures personally, but anyway, yes, let's.
Twiggy Leaf has one.
Okay, Twiggy.
It says, my mom has a superstition that if you drop a piece of silverware, you must step on it before picking it up, or something bad will happen. And what each utensil stands for.
Oh, all right then.
I'd never heard that.
I've never heard that either. That's interesting. Okay then. You could have kept it, sent it in. You might have won a prize. Let's have the next one.
Maggie wants to know what she can bury to find a house.
Oh. I don't know, Maggie. What do you think I am, psychic? I don't know. Why would I know that's so funny? You want to bury something to find a house. I don't think it works that way. Unless, of course, somebody out there listening just might know what you have to do to find a house. If it were me, I've always found my houses in my own special way, because I've always just put it out to the universe. And of course, I do have grey eagles, so that's a help as well. But I always sort of, get an idea of what it is that I would like, and then I allow myself to be guided. That's what I allow myself to do. So good luck with that hunt, Maggie. Next.
They're on a roll today.
Okay, go for it. Go for it. We seem to have unearthed a little treasure here. Do remember that our Friday night show, Everything is Attitude, we're trying to get it up. We're not entirely sure whether or not we can. Al can't be with us tomorrow, so I'm going to be asking him if there's any way that Chris can do it with me tomorrow, be the co-host tomorrow. And if that's the case, we are going to be talking more about superstitions, and we're going to be talking about our attitudes and what our attitudes towards superstitions can be, or perhaps should be, and how we can overcome some of those superstitions that perhaps disable us, because often superstitions can disable us. Let's have another question, another answer, another whatever. We're on a roll. Keep going.
Violet is cracking me up.
As you
There
would.
are so many on here from her. This one says, Monday's child is fair of face, Tuesday's child is full of grace, Wednesday's child is full of woe,
Thursday's child has far to go, Friday's child is loving and giving, and Saturday's child works hard for its living, but the child that is born on the Sabbath day is happy, lively, and something and gay.
Bonny, bright, good and gay.
There you are. But that's not a superstition. But I can tell you that my daughter was born on a Tuesday and she's full of grace, and my grandson was also born on a Tuesday and also full of grace. And I did have a friend of mine years ago. She had a son, Stephen, and he was born on a Wednesday, and there was never a more miserable, moody, grumpy child, and she used to laugh and say that's because he was born on a Wednesday. Wednesday's child is full of woe. Have you not heard that one?
No.
It's very common. Maybe it's just a British thing, but it's very, very common. Thank you for that.
I was born on a Tuesday and I fall down all the time.
Oh, so don't apply then. All right then. Okay, keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay. Brooke says, Rosemary, you are such a dear, and we've the same style sense, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself in the moment.
Good.
But you look absolutely the best in your pink Oxford with the collar up.
All right then. Well, I shall endeavour to try to wear it for you another time. Thank you.
And she wants to know how you made it through the last hurricane.
Well, it wasn't here, and it didn't hit us anyway, and I knew that. And a friend of mine was taking care of this, staying in the house and taking care of the house and the puppy for me while I was away. And I kept saying to her, "Don't worry too much, because I think it's just going to whiz by us," which it did. But while I think about it, can we send our love and healing prayers to all of those in the Bahamas, because boy oh boy did they really have it tough. Let's have another question.
Okay. Sharon wants to know.
Morning, Sharon.
She says, wondering if Grey Eagles people had any interesting superstitions.
Well, they had lots of superstitions. The Native Americans had. I'm listening to him now as I'm talking, but I just off the top of my head, I know of lots and lots of, let's say, I'm not sure superstitions is quite the right word, but yes, I am going to say yes, it is the right word, because he's telling me yes, it is the right word. In every culture around the world since time began and humans walked on this planet, there have been things to do, things not to do. I mean, Reese and I were continually walking through the streets of New York, trying desperately not to walk on a crack. I don't know quite why, but not walking on a crack seemed very important. I remember doing it myself as a kid, and he was doing it. And if we came to a part of the pavement where there were lots of sort of small tiles, it was impossible not to walk on a crack. he would say, "This is a bridge," so we can keep going over the bridge. You can imagine we were having so much fun. We did lots of quizzes, by the way, while we were walking the streets of New York. For instance, as we were walking along, I'd say, "Okay, in the olden days, were there cars and taxis, or horses and carriages?" He'd have to, or did people just simply walk about? And I give him the era, I'd give him the time, and he's only 6 years old, but he's smart. And if he gave the correct answer, it was ding, 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 ding. And if he gave the wrong answer, it was so we were going through the streets of New York doing all sorts of quizzes. But boy, did it ever keep my mind active, because I had to keep on and keep on and keep on thinking of things to ask him. Let's have another question. So walking on cracks, you see, is another superstition. I don't know where that came from, but it's very common. How are we doing, Michelle?
Let's see. We have lots. We still have lots of comments coming in.
Keep going then.
This one is from T, our newest viewer. As soon as I get back to it, because I scrolled the wrong way. And it says, Rosemary, I listened to you not too long ago, and you said that drinking interferes with your angels communicating with you. I've been a moderate drinker for years, but since hearing you say that, I have stopped.
Actually, I don't remember ever saying that. Did I actually ever say that?
I don't know.
Well, drinking too much, of course, interferes with my communicating, but I'm a moderate drinker too, and I like to have a vodka tonic, and I'm just as capable of talking to people in the spirit world when I've had a vodka tonic or two, but I'm a moderate drinker, so I can't say that I've never over imbibed. I cannot say that I've never drunk too much, but very rarely do I drink too much. And I think I did have a rum and coke. I had 2 rum and cokes this time when I was in New York, because I was cleaning out my daughter's cupboards and closets and kitchen, and we had a major clean out, and she has this wonderful cupboard that's full of alcohol, and there was a bottle of rum in there, but it only had so much in it. So I thought, oh well then, rather than put it back, I kept it out. It got me a couple of rum and cokes in there. Everything in moderation, my darling. Just if you like to drink from time to time, by all means have a drink from time to time. Let's have another question. Comment? Anything? Keep going.
Violet said,
Yes.
and I'm giggling a little bit because I read this to myself before I went to read it to you. It said, a bird pooping on your head is good luck. This happened to me on a night out from a flock of pigeons, and I had to wash my hair in the club toilets.
Yes, actually, a bird pooping on you is good luck. But I've got a better story than a bird pooping on my head. I have a big pool area outside, and a big table, and I had guests, and we were all having dinner outside. And we'd laid the table, we'd put the mats out. The only thing that we hadn't put out there, luckily, was the food. But everything else, all the silverware, all the mats, all the napkins, all of that stuff was all out there. And I was sitting at the table just taking 5 minutes when an enormous bird, what are those big pelican things? An enormous pelican happened to sort of come from one corner of the pool cage all the way diagonally across to the other. And I was wearing a hat, which is the only thing that saved my head, but it just, if you ever seen a pelican poop, trust me, a lot. The entire table was covered. I was covered. I couldn't see out of my sunglasses. I was drenched. The table was drenched. Everything was drenched in pelican poop. Can anybody beat that? And what I then did was I literally walked very slowly and carefully, managed to get to the shower without too much poop dropping everywhere, And I stood under the shower with my hat, with my sunglasses, fully clothed, and just drenched myself in soap so that I could clean myself off. Did it bring me luck? Let me think. We had to reset the table. Somebody had to hose down the pool cage completely. We laughed so hard and we had so much fun, and luckily the food wasn't spoiled, so I guess it did bring me a good time at least. And a good story to tell. Yes, go for it.
Maggie would like to know, Rosemary, did my daughter like her ceremony? And I thank everyone for clearing the rain to make it wonderfully sunny for the ceremony and
Yes.
after the gray skies returned.
Absolutely, darling. You know that you're asking me a question you already know the answer to. Keep going. Am I going too fast for you?
No. Brooke says, Rosemary, I just do love you so. Indeed, you are such a star.
Oh, you like the story about the pelican poop, did you? You should have seen it. It was, who knew that birds had so much of that poop in them? My grandson loves to talk about poop, of course. He actually said to me one morning, he woke up, and he may never forgive me for telling you this story, but one morning he woke up and he said, Mosey, he said, I've got to laugh. He said, did you feel anything coming out of your bottom? I said, I looked at him, I said, no, darling. He said, promise? I said, yes. Then I looked at him and I realised, I said, did you feel anything coming out of your bottom? And he said, no. And I said, do you promise? And he looked down, he said, no. And he farted. So every time he thought that somebody had done that, did you feel something coming out of your bottom? And you have to say no. Do you promise? So anyway, why am I telling that story? I don't know. It's a poop story, right? Children love poop stories, and boys especially. Yeah, okay.
Peggy said that she's so glad she's
Morning,
found
Peggy.
you on here. That she read The Eagle and the Rose over 20 years ago when her sister passed and found it very comforting, and that she thanks you so.
Thank you, thank you. You didn't realise I've got such a weird sense of humour, did you? So,
Alexander's on here.
morning, Alexander.
And it says, hi, Rosemary, you are an inspiration. You were one of my favorite authors during my doctoral dissertation.
Oh, thank you.
Sending light your way.
Thank you very much. Back to you.
And then we have Kevin. And Kevin says,
Morning,
hi,
Kevin.
Rosemary.
Hi, darling.
In regards to superstition, does anything come to mind in regards to crossing your fingers?
Oh, good one. You could have won a prize for that. Not now. I don't know. I don't know where it came from, but you're right. It is a superstition, and I think it's one that most of us use. We always used to say, cross my fingers and hope to die, which is a little bit extreme. But yeah, that's how we should, you know what, Kevin, why don't you look up where it came from and how it began and let us know. Again, I'm going to give all of you this information. It's competition. There are 3 of you. We shall choose the best, either the funny. You can see I've got a sense of humour, so, I don't mind if it's a little bit rude or if it's not naughty rude, but a little bit rude or a little bit funny or whatever it is. If you can come up with we're going to choose the best 3, whether they're funny or curious or interesting or whatever it is, and you email them into my office, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. The best 3 will receive a little package. You'll definitely get my new book, A Walk in the Clouds, probably along with the Eagle and the Rose CD read by myself, which is worth a ton of money in anybody's in anybody's world. So, excuse me. And so, you're unfortunately we can only have the competition for people who live in the USA because we don't want to deal with customs and so on. And so, and you also have to have subscribed. If you are not a subscriber on my YouTube channel, there's a little button somewhere and it says subscribe, and all you have to do is click on it. You're not inundated with emails because of it. You're not inundated with information because of it. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no trick to it. It just means that you subscribe and come into my channel, and we pay attention to our subscribers. So if you want to do that, please, please, please feel free to. And I'm dying to get some of the stuff that you send. Don't be lazy about it, people. Let's get some good stuff.
Terry A is on.
Who?
Terry,
Yeah, morning.
and she wants to know, can we send more than one superstition
Oh
per
gosh,
email?
you can send any you like. There's no limit. Poor Michelle. There's no limit to what you want to send in, and you will give you a deadline. What I'm going to do is it's got to be before the deadline. Has to be before Halloween. What date is Halloween then?
The 31st.
So it has to be, let's say
Give me like 3 days before.
the weekend before or something. So we'll give you the proper deadline next week. I just thought of it this morning. I thought, what a fun thing we could do, and we can. And it's interesting anyway to see all of the superstitions from all over the world, and there are trillions of them. So please, if you want to join in, you have to subscribe. You have to be within the USA. If you are not in the USA and you want to send in some superstitions, by all means feel free, because I'd love to read them. It's just that you're not eligible for the prize. Just send them in. Email me, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. In the subject line, put in the contest or competition, whichever you want to put it in, and then we'll know to put those in a special folder where Michelle can put them for me, and we shall read through them. We shall have fun, won't we, Michelle? So send as many in as you like. You can have as many entries. It doesn't cost you a thing. We're not going to, sort of send you a bill for anything, or it's just free. It's just fun. We just thought it would be fun. And I shall read the winning 3 people on Halloween, which will be a Thursday, so it will be our show. All right.
T actually responded. I apparently missed part of her question.
Oh, sorry.
By
Go
accident.
ahead then.
She said that she had sobered up and hopes to hear from her son, who died at 2 days old. She wanted to know if he had stayed a baby or if he had chose to grow up with his siblings.
I can actually tell you that he's grown. And good for you, my darling, good for you. And, stay on that straight and narrow. And, if you would like healing, if you could just send to us your name and, what your issue is. We know what it is, but remind us, just send that to us. Or go onto our healing page, on our Facebook page, on our healing page. We will send you healing every day. When I say we, my team and I, and of course Great Eagle will send you healing every single day. Well done, you. Good for you. Yep.
Okay.
We'll have a couple more, because I don't know what the time is. Does anybody know what the time is? Oh, well, we're all right, yeah.
Yeah, we were late getting on. Chris said that October 25th is the Friday before Halloween. That's my grandfather's birthday.
So what is the Monday, Chris? So by Friday the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, by Monday the 27th, I shall be going through the final ones. So try and get everything in. Thank you, Chris. Try and get everything in by the 24th if you can. Okay. And Ali's saying that the YouTube, the picture is much clearer on my new iPad.
So we might do it from your iPad.
So why not? So, of course, I just had to buy a new iPad Pro because my wonderful iPad started to die on me. And of course, I've left it on charge all the time I've been away, and now it's on full charge. And I was using it this morning. Don't you love it when you spend money you don't really need to? But I can't be without my iPad. Unfortunately, I use it all day, every day. Let's have a couple more of these, and then we're going to call it quits for today.
Kevin just had a comment when we were talking about the addiction earlier in the show.
Yeah.
He said the Salvation Army has a cost-free 6-month addiction treatment center. There are over 100 of them throughout the United States. One can Google Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Centers. It's a free
The
thing.
Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center. I'll say it again. The Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center. You know, Kevin, I'm so appreciative that you sent that in, because I happen to believe, this is straight from my heart, and I've had some experience of the Salvation Army. And he writes the Sally Army. A lot of people don't know that in England, certainly we call them the Sally Army, the Salvation Army, but the nickname is the Sally Army. The Salvation Army, in my view, is one of the very few organizations in the world, and fortunately for all of us, they are around the world. They are one of the very, very few organizations who do what they supposed to do, what they claim to do. You can go to the Salvation Army. Nobody's going to try to convert you to any particular religion. Nobody's going to try to convert you or to tell you to do something that you should or shouldn't do. The Salvation Army finds missing people. The Salvation Army is an amazing, amazing, amazing organization. Kevin, I had no idea that they did the free rehabilitation, but there goes my faith in the Salvation Army once again. It is confirmed. It is absolutely where it should be. I have so much faith in the Salvation Army. So everybody out there, if you have an issue, if you have an addiction and you're struggling, or you know someone who's struggling, we never think about it, do we? People think about AA, and people think about the church, people think about all sorts of, thinking about rehabilitation, how much is it going to cost, and so on and so forth. But rarely do we think about the Salvation Army, and we should think about them more. They're one of those people that I donate to, not all of the time, but from time to time, and I'm talking about it. No, I should give them more, because they are a worthy organization, in my view, one of the best in the world. So thank you, Kevin, for that. I appreciate it.
Mary would like to know if
Morning, Mary.
Grey Eagle sent her a feather.
I don't think it was Grey Eagle. He's chuckling. I don't think it's Grey Eagle who sent you the feather. But I think it's someone who loves you who sent you the feather. Not that Grey Eagle doesn't love you, but you know what I mean. Someone, shall I do that again? I think it was your loved ones in the spirit world who sent you the feather, my love. Yep.
And Brianna says she loves your accent.
Oh, Brianna, that's so nice of you. Somebody actually said to me at the airport yesterday something like, we have friends who are English, and they talk with a particularly great British accent, and it sort of the way it was said to me was, are they actually saying that my accent is not? So you just brought me back there. When I go to England, all of my friends think that I talk with an American accent. It's so funny. That's because I say things like lawyer instead of solicitor. It's because I say things like bonnet instead of hood. Wait a minute, hood instead of bonnet. And it's also because I say trunk instead of boot. Because I've lived here for so long, I do have some of those, because nobody in America would know what I was talking about if I didn't use those American terms. But it's funny, because when I go to England, as I've said, they think I've got an American accent, and when I'm here in America and anywhere else in the world, actually, everybody knows that it's a British accent, although some people do say to me, are you from Australia? And I say, no, actually, no, I'm not. Now you can see the real British accent there. One more. Let's go. Any more? We are done for the day. So let me remind you again about this fun competition that came the top of my head this morning as we were talking about it. Superstitions. So we'd like to hear if you have a superstition, if you know of superstitions, please send them in. The email to send them into is rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Please put in the subject line contest, competition, superstitions, whatever it is you want to put in there, but make sure we know why you are sending this email. They get put in a special folder, which I should go into. I will be the judge, and I'm looking for either the funniest, the weirdest, the most interesting, whatever it is, whatever takes my fancy in the moment. And we're going to have 3 winners, and those winners will get the new book, which is A Walk in the Clouds, and also probably we're going to send them a little goodie bag with maybe, you know, a CD of The Eagle and the Rose with my charming little voice reading The Eagle and the Rose to you. So I mean, that's worth it, right? And unfortunately we have to limit the competition only to residents of the USA, because I'm in the USA. We cannot deal with customs and all of that sort of thing, which we've had to deal with in the past, and it's simply not worth it. However, that doesn't preclude you from sending in if you feel like just joining in and not wanting to win anything, but just participating. We'd love to hear. And through the weeks until the 31st, until actually the deadline for the competition will be the 24th of October. So until the deadline, you know, we should be reading 1 or 2 of these superstitions out to you throughout the weeks. And we also, of course, will want all of your other questions. If we can manage to do our Everything is Attitude tomorrow, it will be at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And hopefully Chris will be I don't know if Al will be able to do that for us, but hopefully we'll be talking about superstitions again. So, you know, we'll be talking about people's attitude towards superstitions and people's attitude towards, you know, stuff like that, which does influence us, and it does, you know, make us worried. For instance, walking under a ladder, should we just do it anyway, or should we just avoid it like the plague? That kind of thing. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. I'm glad to be back home in Florida once again. Of course, I miss my darlings, but I got back in yesterday. Glad to be with Michelle again. We've been talking up a storm this morning, and we shall look forward to seeing you again next week. Of course, I will be with my students. Boy, I hope you've all done your homework. I should be with my students taking class tonight with our online courses. So I'm looking forward to any of you out there who are my students. I'm really looking forward to getting back into it and getting back into the grind of learning, growing. When I say the grind, it really isn't a grind for me. It's just a lot of fun and really inspirational. So we're looking forward to doing the online courses again. Not that we stopped, but we're looking forward to our next class, which is tonight. So I shall see you all then. And in the meantime, it is the weekend after all. So please, 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 all of you, start thinking about those superstitions, start writing them down, start sending them to me. I can't wait. And in the meantime, have a great, 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 blessed, wonderful day and a blessed weekend. And I think, I've no idea how to switch you off, but let's have a look. In the corner, which corner? That one up there?
Yep.
So that's it. In the meantime, we'll see you all either tomorrow night or next week. And that one?